Hello students, winter is on its way, or it's here, and today we're going to be celebrating the snowflakes that are falling outside with a snowflake paper sculpture. Now the snowflakes that you see outdoors actually are based on a hexagon structure. They have 6 sides. For the sake of our project though, we're going to be making a snowflake with 8 sides. When you're viewing this video, you can think about what kind of background you could make for your snowflake. You have different options. You could, if you have construction paper, you could pick out a sheet of construction paper and cut it down to the square, to the size of the snowflake. You can decide to have a white on white sculpture and glue your snowflake to a white sheet of paper. This paper has been rubbed with the side of Crayola color sticks. Crayons will also work. You just use the crayon lightly on the side. Just make sure that you don't get the paper so waxy that the glue won't stick. And finally, this paper was wetted down and painted with watercolor paint and allowed to dry, and then the snowflake was placed on it after that. For my example today, I'm going to be using a blue sheet of paper. Now, the blue paper has been cut down to a square, and if you want to do that at home, you do it like this. You take the paper and just fold this up to the edge like so. Make sure it lines up. After you have it lined up, crease it. And then you take the flap, fold the flap backwards so it lines up to the corner as well. If you align these corners, it makes for nice straight lines. And then unfold it, and then you have a line here that you can cut with a pair of scissors. Of course, if you have a little paper cutter at home, you can use that as well. But this is a pretty easy way to make a square. And then you can just set that piece aside. This one's already been cut down into a square. Now, after you cut this into a square, you're going to fold it to create your snowflake. So you can go ahead and fold it on the diagonal again, because your snowflake has to be made from a square as well. And then you can fold the square in half like this. Now when you fold it in half, I tuck my finger in there so it folds in the right spot. And then once you've got it at the midway point like that, you can crease it like this. Now this part is important. When you are folding the flaps, I don't fold them over like that, because then they don't quite align. What I do is I take the top flap and then I line it up to the edge here, kind of like when you're making a paper airplane. And then I flip it over, and then I line this one up here. And if you can hold it like a paper airplane, you know you've got it right. And then finally, if you want, you can fold this over like this, fold one side over here, and then fold the other one in the same direction as well. So it looks like a little teeny tiny ice cream cone. If this is too hard to cut through all these sheets of paper, you can have the outside flaps be their own part and the inside flap be their own part, but we should be able to cut this okay. All right, so let me fold this back like so. Now this little tail here, cut this off. And then you can save these pieces because you might end up using them later. When you're cutting into your snowflake, it's okay if you'd like to draw first. When we do this in class, I give the kids a template and they draw. They actually make 6-sided snowflakes. And I suggest that they can draw what they want to cut. You see that one of my edges isn't quite aligned there, so that's going to have a little bit of an inconsistency, but that's okay. And then get your scissors in there and cut the shapes out. When you're cutting with a pair of scissors, this pin is called a fulcrum. If you cut near the fulcrum, instead of trying to use just the tip, you'll get more force on the scissors and you'll be able to get through the paper more easily. And then these little scraps, save them because you'll use them later. and you go here and here. And again, if that's too hard to cut, you can open this up back to the back so it's smaller and cut it that way. And then I'm going to cut out these zigzag shapes here. Sometimes the little pieces, they go scooting across the table. I don't think I'm going to be using those. Okay, and then I can open up my snowflake and see how it turned out. Oh, students, when you're cutting your snowflake, make sure when you have holes in it that you leave some space in between each hole. If you don't do that, then the whole thing falls to pieces. But you know what? If the whole thing falls to pieces, you can just make a new one. You'll want to have some copy paper available to you. So here's my snowflake. I'm flattening it out. And then you can use either a glue stick or some liquid glue to put onto the back of the snowflake and glue it down. If you are using liquid glue, just a dot, not a lot. Don't go crazy pouring it out like you're pouring a ton of syrup on pancakes in the morning. That's not necessary. Just use little tiny bits of glue all over. Just little dots of glue all the way around. And don't miss a lot of spots, or it will kind of flop a lot and not stick to the paper. And then carefully, without getting your fingers all gross, flip it over and place it in the middle. And then once you get it in the middle, you can start to press down, get it to stick. You can also do this with glue stick. If you do it with glue stick, hold your glue stick on the edge and use the edge of the glue stick, and then you won't get it all wrinkly. It'll become like a spider web and wrinkle up in your hands. So boys and girls, do not just smear glue all over the background and then stick it into the wet glue. That doesn't look very clean and tidy when you're done. It looks quite messy, and then you can get hair and things stuck in there. It's nasty. Okay, these little triangles are your friends. You can use them to embellish a snowflake and give it more of a three-dimensional effect. So you can also cut into the triangle. So I have a series of little rectangles here. I'm going to steal 4 of them off the pile. 3, 4, and then I should have 4 more. 2, 3, 4, which I do right here. And I'm going to hold them in my hand, and I'm going to cut an opening into them like that. And then I have some with space in between, and I can decide where they go onto my sculpture. So I'm going to put these guys in the middle, and to do that I will put a little tiny bit of glue on the back of them and then just place them here. I'm putting glue on the fold and letting the flaps just kind of rise up a little bit to give it more of a 3D effect. And if you have to stick it down in the glue, you can use the tip of your scissors to do that, and you won't get your finger all sticky. So a little glue here, a little glue here, and stick it down. And now one more. And then these little extra pieces, the last 4 pieces, I can use those in the corner. So these are going to get stuck down here. And then these ones are going to go around the edge like so. And then after I glue those down, I can use some of these other pieces that are left over and add more embellishments to my snowflake. You can do this in sets of 4 or sets of 8, and that looks best. 2 is not enough. You could do 16 if you can get to 16. Now basically you want multiples of 4 for this snowflake. So for this one, I'm gonna go ahead and cut these. I don't like them this big. I'm gonna cut them in half. And then I can add them wherever I like. And I could do this and start to place them around the edge of the snowflake like that. So continue building up the layers of your snowflake until you get it to a point where you're happy with it. Like maybe if you do 3 sets at least of different shapes, add it to the snowflake, then it's going to give it more of a 3-dimensional effect. You can also fold your little scrap of paper here back and forth a few times, fold it in half, and cut more shapes to add to the snowflake as you're working. So have fun with your snowflake. Think about what kind of background you could make for it. This one is made with rubbing, so if you just fold the paper like I showed you, take a few wintry color crayons or acrylic color sticks if you have them, and rub lightly over the background. You can use that as a background for your snowflake. You can leave it white for a more minimalist look, and if you have construction paper that's already in a wintry color, you can use that as well. Happy cutting, happy gluing, and we're around the holiday break. I hope you have and had a wonderful time, and enjoy making your snowflakes. Submit them to Canvas or Buzz when you're done. Bye-bye now.